This is Drink Talk, where we try to solve the world's problems one drink at a time. Every other week in this podcast, we talk about the topics of today and tomorrow while highlighting and enjoying beer, spirits, and wine from around the world and also crafted locally. Join us. We are your hosts, Brian and Brett.
Cheers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another amazing podcast of Drink Talk.
You didn't do the voice thing.
No.
Drink talk. Drink talk.
I don't know. I should start playing that in there. Anyway, we are joined here with Alzuri.
Returning guest host. This has to be like four,
Been a while.
5. Yeah, but it's been like
I think
you've been
three, four times.
We'll go with 4.
We'll go with 4.
Sure.
Yeah.
We love you here, man. We love you mixing up some cocktails for us. And this,
Well, not really cocktails because he wasn't. I mean, we may get into that, but really, he wanted to.
last time you were here, wasn't it Fire in the Mud? Wasn't that the one you were on?
We
That
was
the
here
time
for Fire in the
before.
Mud, but we made inappropriate drinks for that one.
Yeah, you brought
yes.
the aged tequila.
Last time was single barrel.
Yes,
That's
the
what
tequila.
it was. That's right. We were trying some awesome new stuff.
Yeah,
and
tequila and whiskey,
Yep.
single barrel. To
Buffalo
understand
Trace,
why
yep.
it matters.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So,
Yeah, that was a good one. Tell us why you're here and what you because this is the topic that you wanted to do. So
the reason why we're here is we're going to talk about vermouth. The reason being is I had just given a speech with another customer at a bar, what it was, and then Britt showed up and said, "Oh, we should do something again." And then he's like, "Well, what are you interested in?" I was like, "Well, I want to do vermouth." And the look on his face,
I was like,
like, what? Like, oh man, that's abnormal.
well, to me, vermouth is more of a mixer, like a Manhattan or a martini or things
in
of
those,
Well,
yeah.
but here's the thing: even outside that, the average bar, what they are pouring for vermouth is incorrect, because most important thing, all you viewers out there, the most important thing to know, vermouth is wine. It goes bad. So if you keep it in the refrigerator, it's good for a couple of months, and then it starts to turn.
So no, I heard that you put sweet vermouth in the fridge after you open it,
You
but you put
put
all vermouth.
All of them
Gotcha.
in the
slows
refrigerator
down the aging
to
process.
slow down the aging process.
Gotcha.
Oxygen is the enemy.
Because I had an unopened bottle of vermouth here at the
And that's-
house,
and that's
that's fine.
It's
But
fine.
once I open it, I put it in the fridge.
Just like a bottle of wine. If you open your Chardonnay and you have a couple glasses, and because you decide that you're just not
You're
feeling
done,
as
yeah.
pretty as you want to be,
Can't finish a bottle.
you can't finish a bottle of wine in one night.
Come on.
So you put the cork on it, and then you get busy the next couple days, and you don't go back to it. Well, now it's a week sitting on the counter, and you go in and drink it. Doesn't taste good. That's vermouth. Vermouth is wine. Now it is a fortified, aromatized wine. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about what that is, but it's still wine based.
Gotcha.
So it will expire.
Sure.
So when I've been bartending since the early '90s.
A long time.
Before,
we love you a long time.
Before I was allowed to, I just got away with it. But it was a decade or so after I started bartending before I ever realized that vermouth was wine. And I went back
Because
to
a lot of bartenders classify it as a spirit. But
correct.
It's not. It's a wine.
I
I didn't know it was a wine until I started looking into it because I knew nothing
Correct.
about it when you said
you just know it goes into Manhattan.
Right, yeah. So I thought, well, it's an adjunct or some type of low grade spirit or kind of like a apple pucker.
Correct.
Like the,
kind of like an apple pucker.
It was.
No, not at all.
I couldn't think of what are those called?
It's a mixer. It's a mixing
mixer, yeah.
spirit.
Schnapps. That's what I
Yeah.
was thinking of. It was like
But
a
no,
schnapps.
this is it is wine, and the most important thing is that traditionally, you drank vermouth more than spirits.
Sure.
But the rise of the cocktails, as spirits got better, so I bumped that.
You're fine.
As spirits got better, the vermouth became less important, more of just something added on. But one of the older cocktails, the Martinez, which we'll experiment with a little bit later, actually was 2 parts vermouth to 1 part gin.
Unlike the Martinez that plays for Nebraska.
Well, we don't know how much gin
We
is
don't
in
want
him.
to. Don't want to go there.
But we're going to start off, before we get into vermouth, we are going to try an American-style port.
Is there a difference between? Because I know we're going to get into who makes vermouth and all the countries that
Correct.
do that. Are there differences from country to country?
There is, but we're going to start here because we're going to start with port, because port is fortified dessert wine.
And most people have heard of a port wine. So,
And that's why it's a simple, like, by going through the process, you attach to things that people already identify with. You already know that.
so you're easing us into vermouth.
Correct.
Is what you're doing.
You know if you buy a bottle of port, it's good for a while, and then it'll eventually go bad.
Yeah. You're not going to put that in your wine fridge and have that 10 years later.
Or even worse, put it in your liquor cabinet because, you just built your brand new wet bar. Oh, and you bought all this stuff to make Manhattans, martinis. You pour a couple drinks that night, then you put it up there. A year later, you go back there and you try to make that drink again. You're like, oh, man, that's just, I remember liking these at night.
This tastes rancid.
Yeah.
No.
And it has gone bad. And, like, you'll go into a lot of bars and wipe the dust off the
I
bottle.
was just going to ask that. Are there bars where, like, the ones that think it's a spirit, they're like, oh, well, it can sit on the shelf fine.
90% of the bars, in my opinion.
So if you are ordering vermouth in any kind of quantity, I mean, if it's a mixer, is it going to matter? You'll notice some differences.
Oh, God, yes.
Like big differences.
You're
really.
like, can I see
Night
that bottle
and
real
day.
quick first?
Really?
So if I try not to be, I'm a snob. I try not to be pretentious when I go out. I don't want to be that guy.
But you have a knowledge base where, like, I know stuff.
I have
man.
an unfair advantage. Then
I've forgotten more than you know.
and that's the reality.
Can I come behind the bar and make my own drink? That'd be great. Thank you.
What I'll do is I'll ask what they're pouring for vermouth. If they don't go to the refrigerator or know off the top of their head, this is probably not the kind of bar I should order a Manhattan. Now,
Right.
for me, say I'm out to dinner and I'm in the mood for a nice martini. I have found that the average restaurant's house Chardonnay makes a great alternative. So everything I don't love about those house white, right?
Right.
Does great for balancing out my gin. Because, yes, everyone, gin makes a martini. When you have a bunch of fruit juices and you put vodka in there, it's called a mixed drink served up.
It's a cocktail.
Not a martini.
So, right off the bat, let's going to do this.
Okay.
This is Pedroncelli's.
I'm kind of far away, so you guys can cheers and I'll just.
Are we doing a salute with these little glasses? or-
Tootsie, tootsie, tootsie.
It's the right amount.
the
This
right-
is actually a cordial glass.
Does this need to breathe or just let it go?
Oh, that's nice. It's
I'll
just
let
like
it
it
breathe.
tastes like wine. It tastes like wine.
But a little more on the dark raisin
ooh, yeah. Like,
Oh, and there's like stuff in there, like the
sediment.
bits of grape.
Something
that's
that says vintage, it will have sediment.
yeah.
See, and I'm not a sweet flavor profile kind of person, and this
But it's dry.
I know that's what
Yeah.
I was saying. The sweetness got me off guard right at the bit. I was like, oh, this is going to be too sweet, and then as it
It's
came
like
in,
a
it was dry.
Pinot Noir.
And actually not bad example, except for, not enough. Pinot Noirs don't have enough body to
No.
excite me, but this has a great texture. So this with a cigar after dinner, or while you're sipping a small glass of this, while you just have a coupe glass full of vanilla bean ice cream, just
Ooh.
gorgeous.
This would be nice over some ice cream.
You don't even. Well, I quit
could.
putting it on my ice cream because I share my bowl of ice cream with my daughter and raises
It's
a lot
whole
of
nother
questions.
ballgame.
Raised a lot of questions.
Exactly.
But so I always put a sip of it on the side and you just take a small sip and then you take a small spoonful of that vanilla bean ice cream and the cream and just it reactivates across your palate and you get this tannic sweet profile. And those tannins are what's keeping it from being overly sweet at the back end, but great for cigars as well. So I'm going to finish mine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that was good.
I threw mine
I
back
thought it was
quick.
supposed to be a shot, but I didn't know we were supposed to be sipping on it. It was a thimble worth.
Pardon me, sir. Can I have another?
Could I have some more, please? No, that's really good, and I do like the little sediment in there.
Yeah. Do we need to?
Yeah, I'm gonna
I've
clean
got
this.
more shot glasses. If you want me to just go grab more.
He's got his spittoon over here.
Oh, whatever.
so it's
I mean,
good.
I knew I was gonna probably wash
I'm
a lot of
using the
glassware.
tools.
Cool.
Using the tools provided by.
Yeah. Well, we're not sitting here with a wet bar, at our midst. So
Yeah, I know. I'm like, oh, but no,
nope.
this is what we're working with.
This is what we got. I thought I was upstairs and I was gathering all the tools and cutting boards and all the stuff that I need for the show, and I was like, ooh, spray bottle. That'll be nice. We can wash out cups.
But actually,
And a little spit jug.
it's working great, by the way.
Yeah, we'll have to get one of those the things where you turn the glass upside down. We'll have to get one of those.
Yeah, build it in right here.
Yeah, right in the middle. Yeah, just run some water, Britt, and a drain. No
Yeah.
problem, right?
All right,
Just do
so
that.
that is fortified wine. So fortified wine is a wine that has spirit added. Generally, it'll be brandy, not neutral grain spirit, because they want something that's going to be more complementary to the product. Then we
Speaking of that, can I take a look at that?
And you started us with that just because it's a mellower flavor profile, sweeter.
because that is a category. It's like saying if we're talking about bourbon, but we want to talk about whiskey too.
And this is 19%.
That is 19%.
Which equals out to
38,
about 20. Yeah,
Yeah.
about 38 proof. 38 proof.
just below 40, just below the minimum for whiskey.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
that's 40% on whiskey.
Oh, yeah,
proof.
80 proof. You're
80
right.
proof.
I'm sorry. Yeah. You're right.
But no, the reason why
I said the wrong
is
thing for the thing. I
this is fortified wine. Now we're going to try aromatized wine. Now we're going to France for this.
Now explain
This is good,
aromatized.
So aromatized wine would be a
Adding-
fortified wine
Adding aromatics.
that adds aromatics, herbs, and spices.
Mm-hmm.
And while I never got any confirmation of my studying for it, but I'm pretty sure this was invented because they didn't drink their wine fast enough and it starts to get a little funk.
Now, when I was doing some of the research on here, they said that vermouth, like as we know it, has been around since probably the late 18th century. But fortified wine
Correct.
has been around since like 1200 BC China.
I want to say
Greece had some too, but that's where the wormwood was started being added.
correct.
Was in there.
There's a
Going way back.
There's a dispute, and I'm trying to remember the actual year. There's a dispute between Cinzano and Carpano because Carpano has the first commercial license to produce vermouth. But I think
As
it was
we know it, like the technical definition of
I think, but that was
vermouth.
1575.
Wow.
Okay, but Cinzano existed and had a license to produce as a producer before Carpano. So, but Carpano gets to claim like we were the first.
Chicken, egg kind
Yeah.
of thing. Gotcha.
But now this is aromatized wine. So what this is they take their fortified wine and they're adding other things to it to give it a unique profile. Generally going to do, you'll see that these generally will use a lot of Moscato. And it's not because they're the
Moscato tends to be a sweeter wine, just for those that
lighter
don't know. Yeah.
Moscato style wine. It tends to be sweeter, but also more importantly, it grows easy. It's less expensive to make.
Which is why you usually find it pretty cheap.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's not that it's a bad wine. I mean, it's sweeter than I'd like to
Not
drink.
quite a dessert wine, not a Gewürztraminer, but
Correct.
it's, sweet.
But it's easy to produce. So
Gotcha.
now we are doing the Lillet Rosa because we have a lot of fun with this at the bar. We like to mix this with a little bit of coconut rum and some gin.
I think we might need to turn the port
That's
because
what I
it's
was
hard.
thinking.
Yeah, it's hard to see the label there.
It's just such a dark label.
It's such a dark port.
Such a dark.
I mean, it was
It
so
is.
good though. I mean, it was like almost like a dark chocolate. I
And
mean,
that would
but
100%
not
be
chocolate
a
flavors, but-
digestive. So that like
which would be after a meal.
after. So a classy way to serve that at the end of the night, like if you've got company over, is to, again, these size glasses, you want this size because, let's be
It's like
honest,
perfect.
Yeah, it
too
is.
much with this, but you serve that with a little plate of dry chocolate.
So this is the same. So this is not a port, but I mean it's a fortified wine. Has the aromatics in there.
Oh.
Do
So
we know
this-
what aromatics are in this one?
They generally
This
protect
is like
it.
a rosé wine.
Correct.
There's not a lot of for an aromatics. There's not a lot of nose to it.
Oh, but it's beautiful.
It's nice. It's an easy drinker.
This is an aperitif.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
this I would say if I were to drink this without knowing, I would just say it's a
Rosé wine.
like a rosé.
But it
wine,
has
yeah.
a lot more flavor.
Absolutely,
A
absolutely.
lot of
Rosés
rosés
are pretty bland.
They're
but-
delicate.
okay.
delicate.
So, yeah. Let's be PC
Let's
here,
not
guys.
offend the rosé drinkers out
Yes.
there.
Do we have rosé drinkers in the crowd here?
Yeah.
We'll see.
but so and again, we like to use this one. I could have brought the Lillet Blanc, which is traditionally used in the cocktail Vesper, which is the original James Bond martini. I brought this one just because I like it better.
I like it.
I do. Speaking of James Bond, have you seen the Kingsman?
Oh, yeah.
So the first one, I do like the one where he wanted the martini shaken while looking at an open bottle of vermouth.
Yep.
Just
That's
Don't want any in
that's
there.
a Churchill style martini.
yes.
Hey, Brian, bring your arm down just a little bit so you got a little bit more over. That way. There you go. Bingo.
You want me? I like to lean.
Yeah.
Or you just kept going
Yeah.
like over.
Yeah,
I
I'm
had to-
getting my core. I'm getting my,
hear you.
getting my core exercise.
They had to get me one of those stupid earpieces because I had a lav mic for when I would do larger demonstrations, but I move around my head too much because I
Talk with your hands a little bit.
I'll talk over here and talk to the room, but I'm
Like,
I'm
no.
standing right here making drinks, so I can't like.
Turn your whole body.
So they got me one of those stupid earpieces so that
They call them countrymen's.
is that what it is?
That's what it is.
See.
That's right.
It's a technical
You're a
term.
countryman now.
Yeah. So I have to sport a countryman while
exactly.
I'm shaking drinks. I'm like,
Yeehaw!
never thought that would be a thing.
Yeah.
Any rate,
Yes, back to the drink.
funny thing on the Kingsman too. When
Oh.
when you watch Kingsman 2, I forgot what they called it, but
Kingsman 2.
horrible movie. Horrible movie. But
It was. They tried to be over the top from the first. The first
Correct.
one, you know, at the end of the first one, when like the heads are exploding. I'm sorry if I'm ruining it for anybody,
Yeah.
but you know,
Spoiler alert.
to God Save the Queen. I was like, that was over the top, but kind of funny. You know?
but when you get into the second one, that's when you really get to appreciate how much money liquor companies put into a
Oh,
movie.
for sure.
So with the second movie, Old Forester released their Statesman, which was an incredible bourbon, still released, and it is fantastic. So because I like the bourbon, I watch the movie. I still drink the bourbon,
You don't fault them for advertising.
but the fun thing that is, as I'm watching it, because I know spirits, I know brands, I know who owns what on the side, and I every time I watch a movie, I'm looking for labels. See
Oh yeah, branding.
which labels turn facing the camera, they gave money.
Yeah, which one did they just place the hand just right
Yeah.
over the can
so,
where you couldn't?
So
see?
guys, we're not trying to diss them by not showing that label.
Yes, we are.
Trying to show them all.
We're not getting anything from Lillet, but we
Yeah.
do are appreciating what they have to offer.
So, but as I'm watching this movie, and they've got like even the tequilas, like it's Herradura. Like I know these are all Brown-Forman brands, and I'm like, okay, this is funny. Then we get to the part where they're making a martini, and it's the first time the bottles are turned
Right.
away from the
Ah.
camera because it's not. They don't produce. Brown-Forman doesn't have
Sure.
a vermouth, so in this martini, it's got to be turned away.
Ah. Yep,
All right, but this is delicious stuff.
it is.
This is
It really
an aperitif. Splash of sparkling wine and a lemon peel. If you just want to keep it light, a little bit of gin and a lemon peel just takes the next level.
What? So, if somebody were to get this above, if they were looking to break into the wine category, a fortified wine category, is this an expensive venture to get into?
No, this is mid-20.
Oh, okay, for a fifth
Yeah.
or
Easy.
a liter or whatever. Yeah.
No, this will go bad too. Keep it in the refrigerator. You've got a couple months. So believe it or not, I actually have gals who will come in and I just really want to, I just want a glass a night. I was like, well, then this is what you should be drinking.
Yeah.
Because a glass a night, this will last you a couple months.
If you like flavor, this is what you want.
Correct. Well, and I chase flavors. The so the Lillet Blanc is actually fantastic as well. This one's just a little more fun to cocktail with, and I just kind of want to keep it diverse. Lillet is French. Now we're gonna go to some Spanish, or we're gonna go to America for a dry vermouth.
So
what's the proof on the Lillet?
I think it was 17%. 17%.
So a little bit less than the port.
So
Correct.
Brian, you got brought up a good point. Those of you that are tuning in with us, whether you're on Facebook, whether on YouTube, whether live stream or Vimeo, we're kind of broadcasting a lot, a big direction of people here. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, we are monitoring our feed, Facebook Live. We're monitoring our feed, YouTube Live over here. So go ahead and feel free to ask questions because Alzuri's the man of wisdom and knowledge on this sort of thing. And like you said at the beginning of the program, when he said he was going to do vermouth on the show, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you're quickly changing my mind.
And we haven't hit the vermouth yet.
Yeah.
So the Lillet, while an aromatized wine, is still a fortified
We're
wine.
about to hit the vermouth.
Now we're going to hit vermouth. Now this just hit our market. This is an American dry vermouth, made here in U.S. Trincheri.
And of the vermouths, there's really two major.
There's two
types.
dominant brands. Well,
Not brands, but types of
styles. Three actually for the longest time.
Okay.
So you had in Italy you had dry, Bianco, and sweet. French you had the dry, the Blanc, and then the sweet. They usually call Rouge, by the way.
Oh. And while he's doing that, I do want to mention that the last podcast that we had, if anybody has been following us, we had some technical difficulties during the storming Area 51.
Well, the weird thing is, when we did raid Area 51, people thought that they were watching.
We didn't.
Well, people thought they were watching live feeds of people actually storming Area 51, but it was like 10 o'clock in the morning here. So definitely be daylight there, and it was pitch black. And you're like, wait a minute, this is not. You're not in the right. You're not going live.
Yeah.
So I believe that we were the only live feed of raid Area 51 that wasn't at Area 51. But Facebook wouldn't let me go live, which was the weirdest thing. I don't know. But I got that all figured out. I deleted some programs and reinstalled programs, and now we're back up and running, which is good.
Yes.
So,
all right.
and we're still also on YouTube Live, so that's great.
So for those that have not or are new to Vermouth, or just know it like I did, where I only knew it from
Makes a
Manhattans.
cocktail.
Yeah, Manhattans and martinis. Is this the best way to? I mean, obviously, palates are different, but the best way to drink a vermouth, just
I will admit
this is the traditional way.
This is a traditional way.
Yeah.
I do, however, prefer mine on the ice because I like the water thins it out a little bit, gives it a little softer texture, and I usually will hit it with a lemon peel or an orange peel.
Okay, just
Those
a little
are-
citrusy.
We're just doing these straight up after we do this round. We can.
Yeah, we can play around,
Play
but
around.
this is just this is the right way to learn it because think of it if you're cooking food. If you don't try all the ingredients, how do you really know what it does to your drink? So, and I say this from years of a bartender, just making what I know is how a drink's made.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started drinking. It's like, well, I need to know what my vermouth tastes like because I can taste, even from the different brands, how dramatic they are. I'm going to not say anything negative about the brands I want people to never, ever, ever, ever buy again.
Ever?
Just come see me at
Fair
Spear World. We'll
point you in the right
yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
Cheers,
All right,
guys.
to a
Yeah,
liquid that
cheers.
looks like water to me.
Yeah,
Cheers.
it's got a little tinge to it. That's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bright,
Okay.
crisp,
Yeah.
bitter.
I could see how this could be used, and I forget the word again, for before meal.
Aperitif.
Aperitif.
Ooh, when I breathed out my nose, I definitely got a different flavor.
Correct.
Yeah.
There is a dryness on this
Oh,
that
yeah.
you did not have on the others, and that is coming from the wormwood.
Not as sweet. There's a little sweetness, but it's just it's masked by
That's
the
what I'm
dryness.
smelling is when I breathe out my nose. It
So-
was kind of like, Brian, remember that ice cream at Afghani Kebab? You'd eat the ice cream, and then you'd breathe out through your nose, and you could smell flowers.
Roses. Yeah.
It was
rose petals.
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
it was edible rose petals that he ground into the ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
And when you ate the ice cream, you didn't taste rose, but when you breathed out, you definitely got a different smell.
No, that's good. I'm surprised that this is only really known for being mixed with something,
Right.
because this is actually quite. I would order this before a meal.
Oh, yeah.
I'd drink that straight.
At the right restaurant.
Right.
One that doesn't have the dust on the bottle. That
Just
hasn't
wanna
been
make
sitting
sure,
around
like,
for a year and a half.
Be very careful. That's one thing. Like I'll teach somebody this
At
stuff.
a martini bar, that would probably be acceptable because they know how to handle it correctly if it's the right kind of martini bar. I said that with a question mark at the end.
Well, even a whiskey bar. I mean,
Whiskey bar.
Yeah.
Whiskey bar have a better chance. The problem
enough.
you run with martini bars is the rise of the vodka martini killed the cocktail martini. So it just, it really did.
So what's the difference? Explain the difference.
Well, years ago there was an awesome bar called Myth, where Barry and Rye currently is.
I don't believe you.
Okay, but
That is a
That's a myth.
But no, but here was the fun part. The guy who ran it, great bartender, had all these great ideas. He wanted to have a genuine martini bar, but that wasn't working, so he served a lot of mixed drinks served up. So pineapple, blue, vodka, little bit of cherry juice,
Got people in because
Shaken.
hey, these are fun.
but served it in martini glass, but serving them up chilled with no ice. Now everyone just loved martinis, and
Which isn't the technical definition.
not a martini. A martini is vermouth, gin, Regan's bitters, and lemon peel. Originally, the oldest recipe I found was equal parts. Now, if you do a wet martini, that means go a little heavier on the vermouth. Dry martini means little to no vermouth. And when I first started bartending, Those old men would have me either just make it while the vermouth sat there, or make me wave the bottle of vermouth over my, like.
So was this voodoo? What's going on here?
And like,
Draw a pentagram.
and then you wouldn't do it, and they're like, "Well, I thought you were making me a martini." I'm like, "Well, I made it the way you liked it." Well, you didn't even pull the vermouth out. I'm like, "Well, you don't like vermouth in your martini." Well, but you still got to put it by the. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Whatever.
You're the
So-
expert.
Yeah.
Not
So
me.
what does that do for the martini with the wet to the dry? Because I'm not a big martini. I had a terrible night on, but anyway, that's beside the point. So the wet and the dry, does the wet martini with more vermouth just kind of mellows
it out, and it all depends on what you're going for. I will be honest, most of my martinis style cocktails that I enjoy to drink at home don't have vermouth in it, because the vermouth I enjoy, I rather just pour it in a glass and drink it. When I'm in a martini mood, I'm looking for a way to sip my gin that isn't straight gin. So that's actually the advantage of a martini, is you're using that vermouth to balance out some of those unique flavors in your gin and bringing that that alcohol content down quite a bit. Your average gin, well, we'll just talk about Tanqueray. It's 94 proof. 94 proof, 4 botanicals, not a very complex gin. Great product, incredibly well made, but very clear on what the flavor is. But adding that into a martini with a vermouth is going to give it a little more complexity. It's going to bring down that alcohol content, so it's not a juniper, boozy juniper right in your palate, and it makes a beautiful cocktail.
And it kind of surprises me when you say that. Just not what you were saying specifically, but that you use more vermouth in gin because gin has more flavor than vodka. And I would think that you, someone who enjoys flavor and all that, would want more gin in there. But I can understand juniper berries it's an assorted flavor.
Well, I love gin.
Yeah.
But when I'm in a gin mood, I don't want all these monkeying with my gins. My library collection at home is over 100 gins for studying purposes. Okay.
Education.
And a lot of flavors to learn. So like when I'm in a gin mood, I know these gins. I know exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm in a mood for that flavor. So I actually will use soju more often than not for my style of, when I want to taste gin, but I don't need to be drinking a glass of gin for hours.
Right. Greetings from Turkey, by the way.
Turkey.
And this gentleman asked us if we were trying some of this Turkish, and I said, I will say no, we are not drinking anything Turkish.
The only Turkish thing I can get in Omaha right now is a raki.
That's what he asked if we were drinking. And you can get that here.
I can get one raki, and that's it in the state of Nebraska.
And I'm getting different comments on here.
Well, that's because I'm on YouTube and you're on Facebook.
There we go.
Bingo.
Right. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, the raki is you gotta like that anise flavor, which is dominantly what you get out of wormwood, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But this here, the reason why this is called vermouth and not aromatized wine is the presence of wormwood. The fun thing I always like to point out is that the German word for wormwood is Vermouth, and that's
spelled
what
with a W.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it's pronounced Vermouth.
Yeah, Vermouth.
Vermouth.
Like there's a, it's like Spanish with that BV. Like there's a, it's not Wermouth. Yeah.
Werewolf. Wermouth. Barb, if you're still watching, yes, that drink was dry, but I wouldn't say real dry. You noticed it a little bit.
It's not intended to be bone dry. It's supposed to be dry enough to not linger on your palate, and it's intended to start the palate, not satisfy it. Something that's sweet or thicker or heavier is intended to wrap up your palate and call it done. This is intended to almost like make you want something else. Very refreshing. Again, I do prefer it on the rocks with a lemon peel, is how I normally drink it. Now we're going to go to Spain.
Sweet. Where was the last one from? America? American?
Just hit our market, and
America.
I'm really excited
From
for
America.
I do like the label. You were showing me that earlier. That's kind of cool.
it.
Yeah.
I'll let somebody else play with that.
Maybe
I'll
we can.
pour
Here,
first.
let's. Yeah.
Well, let me pour first.
Pour first, and then we'll play.
priorities.
So this would be get too far away from the mic.
You got it. You're fine.
This is going to be more as I was saying, the Bianco Blanc or Blanco style, since it's Spanish. This would be an off-sweet, off-dry. Pick one.
It's a little bit different color.
Yes.
It's a little more golden than the last one. The last one just had a slight tinge.
So
to
hold that up to the camera, and
So-
I'm going to zoom in there and watch this.
I got to go the right way.
Yeah, it's dolphins jumping and
Hearts beating,
and
splashing. What a wonderful little
it's
beautiful thing.
cool label to make it do that.
And it is delicious. Now this is
Does
going
it
to
slip up? I mean,
It does.
Yeah, it
okay,
does.
I was going to say it'd be hard
Yeah.
to.
Now I have to say this is going to make a gorgeous fall martini. So this is the Bianca style.
And the Bianca style is
It's that in between dry and sweet.
okay. Middle ground.
Yeah. So like I said, in French they call it Blanc. It's Bianca style. In Italy, this is Blanco because
Why not?
Spanish.
Yeah.
They all have their own
El
little.
terrible.
So this one, however, is dangerous for me. I
yeah.
love this
Cheers.
one.
Salud.
Salute.
Salud.
A little more aroma on this one.
Ooh, kind of like not a cinnamon, but
It's like walnut, nutty, warm apple.
It's not
apple
dry.
cinnamon.
Yeah,
That's
the-
kind of what I taste.
you definitely get the sweetness up front. There isn't a whole lot of dry at all. I'm with you on the cinnamon.
Apple
I-
cinnamon.
This
Little-
is
yep.
this is a comfort flavor,
Mhm.
and this is gonna make my warm hug martinis for the fall. This with a barrel aged gin, kind of give you more of those dark flavors, those more comfort notes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh man, yeah,
this one gets away from me.
I would
like-
just take a shot of this.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like the other one. This-
Fantastic.
well,
this
I learned
one-
I have to add the gin to slow me down.
yeah, that too.
Well, and this one to me, I would have after dinner. I don't know that I would have this one before because this is
It's
more dessert
sweet.
like. It's
Very
sweet. Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
And definitely, I would 100%. Or another way that they drink this, and like the Americano Bianco style that you get from Italy, these are things that they're going to drink throughout the afternoon. It's sessionable drinking. You know.
We have a question from the audience here.
Yes.
That, they're actually asking where we can purchase some of these.
So I know this really great place that gives me this beautiful love note every 2 weeks that tells me exactly how much I'm worth to them. Best relationship ever. We sell all these at Spirit World.
Yes.
Which is found on 60th and Center.
67th and Center.
67th Center.
Exarban Village,
Yep.
which just opened that new light rail place. Have you been there? Yes.
What is it? Light rail? Is that what it's called?
It's right next to HDR. And yes, I popped in there, and Brian.
Interrail.
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 And
Thank you. Thank you.
It's amazing. It's like an indoor food court where you can drink. They've got outdoor fireplaces. They've got games you can play. The thing is, we went there, was it 2 nights ago? It was Friday night. It's packed. But
well, yeah, they just opened.
couldn't
so.
find a seat in the house. So if you're going to go, let it calm down a little bit and then check it out. But definitely a lot of interesting smelt curry right when I went in there. I was like, ooh, who's making a curry?
Well, yeah, it said the list of the restaurants sounded really
Yeah.
interesting. It's from a group in New York. So,
But if you've never been to the Exarban Village, the very first place you can go to is Spirit World.
Where we sell liquor, we make cocktails, and there's beer there too, I guess. But
Yes,
that's
there
And there's wine.
I sell a lot of wine, but the beer's just never my. We have a guy for that.
Got a guy for that. Dude, I got it.
You have a good selection there, and plus you have some taps. But yeah, you're mostly known, which is why you call it Spirit World. but
Correct.
For all your spirit needs.
Right.
Well, and you have great places like Beertopia and Casual Pints that are focusing on beer.
Well, and then you guys are kind of doing like food, kind of in the morning, sponsored by.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Never mind. I will.
We do.
I will
We are-
Stretch that.
We are doing
Reverse it.
food,
Yeah.
but yes, we just to help use our bar to help with some of the food is
diversify.
We just added a cocktail that uses candied bacon as a garnish.
Oh,
Speaking of cocktail, could I get some of
Yes.
that gin with some of the Blanco? That sounded delicious. And this gin, I think we should talk about what type of gin this is.
Okay. Well, this
because
gin
this
here,
this gin
yes.
is not clear.
yeah. No, I'll take some of that as well.
Gin has come a long way. This gin here is one of the earliest modern takes of Old Tom gin. This is Ransom Old Tom gin barrel aged. So what you have here Old Tom was slightly sweeter. There's a lot of myth and story with you'd get your Old Tom gin from a cat. You'd put your little
Like a
toothpicks- tomcat at the edge of a public house, so that they didn't want you in. So there was like a funnel. So you'd put your 2 pence in, and that out the cat paw was a funnel that they'd pour your drink at to you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Another
No real historical. A lot of books mentioned it. Just don't know what, There's a lot of myth around booze too.
Is that where they came up with the shooter slide for the ice sculpture? Kind of like the same premise.
Yes.
and this is aged in
Whiskey barrels.
whiskey barrels, yeah, which gives it that the brownish tinge to it, or the
What you'll
amber
get
tinge
here,
to it.
it is a slightly sweeter style gin. This has been a great entry point for people who have had bad gin experiences or a whiskey drinker to see what gin really can be. Again, I made the joke about having over 100 gins at home. It's not a joke. It's 15,
Quite literally.
15 feet of gin, and it's there so I can study these and know how they make a cocktail.
Late night study sessions are crazy.
Oh,
man.
darn.
I used to let more people come over and
Study?
assist,
Oh.
but I really don't want to be responsible for them anymore. So it's like I'll just work on this alone.
Yeah.
Right.
We've got another question from Barb. She's asking if you can just walk in and order a glass of the Blanco Vermouth.
Yes, you can.
There you go. Boom.
Please do.
Yeah. They got to get rid of it. They don't want to keep it at the bar for more than a couple months. So
And your average bar is only going to have one or two sweet and a dry vermouth. We go through it quite a bit. One of the dumb things that I just really take a lot of pride in with what I helped with Spirit World is vermouth is one of our top selling categories.
Huh. Interesting.
It's just phenomenal.
Is it? Excuse me. Is it something that's like growing here in America? Because I know in Europe they know more about vermouth than we do here.
It is because it's not just my help. We'll get these folks they just got back from Spain and they heard that vermouth was this thing and they didn't know what they could get here, and sure enough it's like, oh, you specifically looking for Spanish vermouth? Because I've got 6 Spanish vermouth, predominantly Italian vermouth.
Are you going to do a vermouth tasting at some point?
I have.
Have you? You've already done
Oh,
one?
we've done them.
Oh man,
See.
Great turnouts for those too.
that's good. Well, it's a category that not a lot of people know about.
And that's just it. And you're even. So I'm starting to do something on working with the industry. I'm not a member of the guild or anything like that. I am so spoiled with what I get to do at Spirit World. I have access to all the new wines, all the new spirits, everything that comes out. I mean, if you have a product you want to sell, well, you bring it to me to try.
Right.
So, whereas a lot of other bars, if you work at at Applebee's, they don't let you try these new products, and they have a corporate run menu.
Like you've got to sell it. And it's like, well, I can't
This is
sell
how-
it if I don't
yeah.
know it.
This is how you make a old fashioned. This is
Correct,
How, yeah.
and it's a corporate decision, not the bartender skill. So what I'm trying to do, and I haven't quite gotten this all figured out yet, is I'm working with the wholesalers to, when these new products come in, we'll host an open house to the bars and bartenders on a Sunday night.
That's fantastic.
We'll
by the
actually
way.
let them try it. We'll actually let them come back and teach them techniques. And the downside is, while yes, I'm a smug, arrogant, pompous jackass of a human being, but I'm really proud of my industry and I love what I get to do. And
you're extremely knowledgeable.
I get to be because I have access that almost nobody in Omaha gets. And and that's just it, like, well, yes, I'm all great. Just ask me, I'll tell you. But I have
So humble.
access to stuff that nobody else gets to.
Mm-hmm.
You work at a bar down the street and you're like, oh, I've heard of this thing called Old Tom Gin, but your bar owner hasn't. Even though you have plans to be a great bartender, how are you going to get the access?
Mm-hmm.
So we are working with trying to help to all the other bartenders. And on our side, we also means that, hey, who carries all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. By the way,
You
So
could order it through us.
And the
stop
more
by and see old Alzuri.
and the
It's
more
Spirit World.
more bartenders that are out there using good vermouths and stuff like that, we carry that. So it helps us as well. And every drink we make at the bar, we sell the ingredients for. That's one of our big things. Like we don't do a lot of crazy syrups. We don't do a lot of stuff like that. We want to make a martini that you can buy everything you need to make that drink.
It's perfect.
So,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, and this back to what Britt said. This is fantastic with the gin in here.
What ends up happening is that vermouth tones down the spiciness and the alcohol content of the gin, but those warm notes, those warm sweet notes with that gin make that gin more like outside at a campfire, kind of those fall feelings.
I completely agree with that. And it'd be a great way if you're wanting to get into the gin category. This would be a great way to do it. Get some vermouth. And we're just drinking it neat, by the way. If for those of you that can't really see, what we're doing.
Yeah, we're
just neat and little shot glasses.
Yeah, we could do
Nothing
all sorts
cold.
of crazy cocktails, but
yeah. I mean, I
really
brought
love-
down ice cubes and I brought down shakers, and
This is a great way to actually show people what this stuff is. If I always pick on Coors Light because of their Blue Mountain bottles. Well, if something, the warmer something is, the harder it is to hide flavors. So when something is ice cold, it numbs the palate and you miss out on all the flavors.
See, and it's a Banquet. I actually like Banquet versus the regular Coors Light.
But that's just it. Like and I'm not picking on Coors Light. It's just that their entire scheme is
Drink it super cold.
ice cold.
Yeah, exactly.
Refreshing.
You need ice floating in your beer that
Yes.
cold.
So
I'm guilty. Like when I first started drinking beer, I had those mugs that you put in the
We all
freezer. Yeah,
we
and
all were.
You pour the thing in there and it crystallizes because it got so cold. And
I'm trying to imagine if in my early 20s, if somebody said, "Oh, here, try this vermouth." Actually, no, that's not true. Because I remember that I worked this hotel, and we got a lot of Europeans in, and they'd order vermouth on the rocks, and I just like, I'd have
I
the
did
face.
those, yeah.
Yeah.
my face.
I was like, "What the hell? Why? Like this is? I don't even like this stuff in my gin or whiskey. Like, why would you do that?" And like they would make the face, but now that I have actually taken the time to study it, and that's what I have to do with my job is I know how to make a drink, but I need to know why this whiskey with this vermouth is different than that whiskey, and that's my job.
right. All right. So what are we moving on here?
We are going
Cocchi?
to Italy. This is a Cocchi Torino, hands down my top selling vermouth because let's be honest, Spirit World sells a lot of whiskey.
That is quite dark compared to the
This
others.
is.
And by dark I mean you can still see through it.
Yes.
So it's more of an amber.
But
color to
this
it.
is gorgeously complex. It is on the sweet side.
I'm going to put that right there because there's the little dip edge.
Okay. So this is sweet, but it's going to remind you a lot like the port, where it's going to have that tannic dry finish. But man, what this does to a cocktail. Cheers,
A
y'all.
little bit of there's a
Yeah, there's a lot
similar
happening
aroma
here.
here too. Yeah.
Wow. And to think I had this sitting in my basement for
That stuff
6
is
months.
delicious.
This stuff.
yeah, that's mine. I had that. He had me buy it for a show one time,
Now,
and
you
we
said
just
it
never
goes
used
bad.
Once you open it.
Oh, okay.
But it never was
sealed.
open. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
But you
Good.
see what I'm saying? Like the finish is dry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Up front, you get the sweetness. There's like a maturity level in there because it's a richer flavor.
But I got that woodiness,
Yep.
wormwood at the
And
end.
that's that
Original.
wormwood that dries out that and it allows you, like, this is a digestive. This is an end of the meal. Like, I just want to sip on this
Oh, yeah.
and kind of, like, and don't get me wrong, I love it with whiskey in it. But I'm a lazy drinker at home. Sometimes just not in the mood for a full glass of whiskey. Well, that's open.
A pint of whiskey.
Well, I do drink out of wine glasses at home. I won't lie. Like, I have a giant library. When it's not work, I just pour in a wine glass because
It's fancier.
yeah.
We'll just call it that.
We're going to pour 4 ounces and it doesn't look like that big of a deal because it's a wine glass.
No, the wine glasses. One of those giant ones.
The 4
20
ounces
20
of wine,
ounce wine glass.
4 ounces in a wine glass is no big deal, but
Yeah. 4 ounces in one of those.
4 ounces in one of that is like, oh, that's a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
this is delicious.
that'd fill it right up.
This is delicious. I would order this. Yeah, I would order this again. Now, I mean, earlier we were talking about Fernet before the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm getting some of that at the very back.
Is
Does
that?
Fernet have wormwood in it? Is that why?
I don't know if Fernet has wormwood in it, but
'Cause
you're
that's
getting
a closely guarded secret.
correct.
as to
But you're
what's in
getting
there.
a lot of I think there's as I'm saying it wrong.
There is root, whatever that root is in Fernet. So, and wormwood
there's
is a root.
Correct. I think there's wormwood in it personally, just because they use it in everything, like traditionally. So that whole nonsense with the ban on absinthe was really not well thought out, because when you sit there and look at everything that was using it.
Why don't we explain that a little more, because that is a myth that I've had since today.
Because the reality is, if
I was today years old when I found out.
So what we get in the U.S. is actual vermouth or absinthe. It is not a different
band.
We may have different levels of things that we allow, just like the French have different levels that they allow. But yes, there is wormwood in absinthe. There's a couple American producers that actually, there's one out of Chicago who makes an amazing one that's aged in little whiskey barrels. It tastes like barrel-shaped root beer candies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember those.
At
Nostalgic flavor.
At 126 proof.
Woo, that'll get you where you're going.
That's where, when the ban of wormwood came around the same time that it was hurting.
Before you close it too much. Oh,
we're going to put some rye in there.
Oh, okay. Perfect. I'm glad I brought the rye.
I mean, because don't get me wrong, I just didn't want this to be off topic and say, oh, we're making cocktails and that's how you drink vermouth. No, vermouth is great.
Yes, I would agree. Any one of these, I
rye.
would have. Yeah, any one of these. Well, we only have 3 vermouth, but I would order any one of these. And let's see, the first one I'd order before.
Correct.
The next 2 I'd order after. That's a good sound right there. We are the rye whiskey of choice is Michter's. It is one of my favorite whiskey bourbon ryes.
One of the things I like about the Michter's is that normally I prefer something higher proof for cocktail, because I look at everything.
You're mixing stuff together and it tends to dilute it a little bit. But
this one has such a strong rye flavor. At 80, I think it's 83 proof, 42.4%, so close enough.
Yeah.
But it's just fantastic. I didn't put any rye in mine, sorry.
So say yours looked a little short.
Yeah, Joel from Proof was the one that actually turned me on to Michter's.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Clinky.
Clinky clink.
Oh, that's nice.
So,
yeah, man, I did like.
It just smooths the whiskey out.
And it gives and this is actually why I love cocktailing with ryes, because ryes aren't generally as complex, so they have that spicy note. So they make great cocktails, because that vermouth comes in,
cuts through all that,
and kind of gets that spicy, but it gives that middle body. And
it takes the edge off the whiskey, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And we're doing for those of you that want to know, we are doing like a 50-50 mix of the vermouth and the whiskey.
What is the whiskey that we're drinking here?
Michter's rye.
Michter's, not Victor. Michter's.
Yep. It is they've got a couple different styles out there. Regular whiskey, bourbon.
They're American unblended, fantastic whiskey. Am I good?
There we go.
So they make a Michter's American unblended. That is actually my favorite of theirs.
I haven't seen that one yet.
It's been it got rose in popularity, and now it's a pain to get.
So if you find a bottle.
But the best thing about that American unblended is they follow the rules to be bourbon, except for they reuse the barrels. So you end up with ex-bourbon barrels producing this whiskey. So it can no longer be called bourbon.
Exactly.
However, so you're
kind of like aged whiskey here. It can't be called Scotch. It's just aged whiskey.
And like you end up with, now the Scots buy used bourbon barrels all the time, and now they put it on the label because that's a popular thing.
Same with rum barrels. People are using a lot with rum barrels. And
I have a private barrel from Brickway sitting in their rum barrels right now.
I just had
fantastic.
I was just out at Inkwell the other day and had some of their Basil Hayden in the
the rum Caribbean cask.
Yeah,
I have to admit, the first sip I had on that one, I was like, it's not for me.
It's very sweet,
and I love rums. But the first time because I approached it like I do Basil Hayden's, and I'm used to it being much thinner, and I'm like, okay, there's a lot of texture. It wasn't what I was expecting getting into a Basil Hayden, but nothing put me off. So I finished my glass, and I was reading emails and doing admin work, and I noticed I poured myself another glass on instinct. So I'm like, I think I must like it.
It's gonna be all right.
I liked it a little more than I thought I would.
Speaking of Brickway, though, I was perusing Spirit World earlier today before I called you, and was like, I should probably call Alzuri and like, what should I bring? Glad you turned me on to this gin, but I was also seeing that Brickway has a gin, and I was like, what?
They have a really nice gin. The packaging's not gorgeous.
No, it's not.
But it's their intent is 100% because they want to be able to be used in a well. So when they had the short bottles, when all their products are coming in those same short
Got
stout
hidden in
bottles,
the well, basically.
You can't use it behind the bar.
You need something quick and tall so you can grab it right out of the well.
So they bought a less expensive bottle,
and
now it's affordable to use as well.
That's awesome.
Quality still just as well. They didn't like give up on some. The first time the gin came out, it was a little bit on the citrus lemon side, but then they balanced it out, and what they're producing now is a solid, good gin for the money.
I gotta say, those first couple sips of the rye and the vermouth were really good, and then I got to the end, and man, when it sat for a little bit at the end, and after a couple sips, it just grows on you.
By the way, and we're
so
not
good.
And now this isn't a Manhattan yet. We haven't had bitters. We haven't expressed the lemon peel. We haven't diluted it with water.
Or the rocks. Yeah.
But that's just it. When I talk about diluting with water, because I will always serve the customer the way he wants it, he or she.
Hands full.
But I serve all my drinks up on purpose.
And when you say up, you mean just for the uninitiated?
Up means chilled and served without any ice. The reason why I do it is because I take a lot of pride in every drink I put out.
Are you just shaking it, or are you how are you serving it chilled?
Shaken or stirred.
Okay.
If it's straight spirits, like a Manhattan, it's stirred. If it's a martini and you're not Smirnoff paying $16 million to be a part of the first James Bond movie, it's stirred, just so you know.
Yep. Okay. All right.
You shake when you have juice in there to really get it going. But if you shake a real martini, you'll put a cloudiness in there that makes it an incredibly unappealing drink. But like when I martinis, it's crisp and it's like almost looks like barrel. Is that water?
So I got a quick question. I hear people, I love a martini, but I love it dirty. And when I think of dirty, they're talking about olive juice or pickle juice or some kind of that kind of juice. Why? I guess.
It came. That's a product of the 50s. The rise. The degradation of the American palate and the rise of processed food, vodkas, and tasteless, bland. Guys are my age, almost.
Yeah.
You guys remember TV dinners?
Yeah.
Oh, like look at how cool these are! Like,
Hunger Man Jack.
But they're bland because not trying to.
They're flash frozen,
correct?
Salt packed.
There's no flavor, and so you have the rise of space age and all these cool foods coming out.
But they had pudding in them.
Oh, I know. But what ends up happening is you quit chasing flavors. I mean, currently, just look at our restaurant scene here in Omaha. I mean, obviously, we're past that. We want flavors. We want to taste something.
Absolutely.
So that's where, that dirty martini was. You had your martini lunches, and you came back smelling like gin.
You make it dirty, you don't smell.
You smell like
just
pickles,
olives and pickles. Yeah.
Just had a tea martini lunch.
And I do.
Tea martini lunch.
I do like a little bit of olive juice in it.
I meant tuna. Lunch.
I kind of did it was an educational moment that, looking back, I should have made sample sizes. My girlfriend and I, we wanted to play around with olives. Like, I've got all these gins, I've got all these vermouths, and like, all right, well, let's kind of dabble with this martini. We'll keep the same ratio, and then we'll just buy. We'll just try a bunch of different gins, and when we're let's get a special olive at least. And so we were at Hy-Vee and found all these different olives. I'm like, all right, so we're this gin, this vermouth, and we're gonna just change out the olives. And that was actually a lot of fun because the salt that you get from the olive brine will dramatically change the way your palate interprets flavor. I don't care for the blue cheese olives in my martini. Makes it too oily, and I don't like the film that. Well, I don't like the way it makes my drink look.
I don't want cheese in my drink.
And it'll overpower all the flavors.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
I
One
like
on my
blue
salad.
cheese, yeah.
One on my salad. And, go and throw a couple blue cheese stuffed olives. But in my martini, I'm looking for balance.
Sure. That
Not
makes
one
sense.
flavor standard. We had a night where we were doing old fashions, and somebody brought these. They were a super dark cherry from Trader Joe's. I can't think of specifically what it was, but they were unbelievably.
Was it Trader Joe's cherries?
Trader Joe's
Yeah.
cherries, and they're super, super dark, almost black.
To use it.
Mm-hmm.
Same with cherries. There is one particular brand of cherries that we carry is the Luxardo Maraschino cherries. It's a $22 bottle of cherries. But, oh, man. You put one in your drink, snack on 3. Jeez.
Oh, looks like we got some questions here.
Yep.
Are martinis always vodka or
Negative.
gin? So we talked a little bit about that, but go ahead and
Traditionally, there are no classic vodka cocktails. Vodka did not become a rise until well after Prohibition because it had no flavor. So you use gin. The martinis were originally using gin, and if you go to any classic cocktail book, there will be tons of gin recipes.
So then the part 2 is, I know you want to finish, but the part 2 is, do you have to specifically order gin or vodka, or what's the default when you order a martini? Or is it depend on?
There's a rift now.
Okay.
When I first learned to bartend a while ago, if somebody said martini, you immediately grabbed gin. You didn't ask questions. Then a few years later, you'd have to start asking. And then it switched completely to vodka. But because of the rise of classic style cocktails, if you go into a cocktail bar, you should
like an actual craft cocktail.
correct.
Bar.
You should assume that your martini will be made with gin unless you specify otherwise.
So,
And I'm not.
So David, and this comes from David. So I'm assuming if you go to Inkwell, you're going to get gin in your.
I'm going to
martini.
assume Inkwell does it the classic style
Yeah.
and is going to make a great gin martini. And I'm not trying to pick on vodka. It's just that if somebody who gets
But
paid
that's
to
what
drink.
that's what I would have like when I order a martini. I would have expected vodka in it just because that's
Right.
what I knew.
Vodka became more popular.
Even though I know, like historically, like gin that's what a martini is. But like when I go to a bar, and I'm not a big martini drinker, but that's what I would expect. Even though I know that gin is like the historic
yeah.
today. So
It was the rise of vodka. That's all it was. And most people, I did a vodka class that was actually a lot of fun and more than I thought it'd be. But while yes, you can definitely taste your difference in vodkas, the distillate matters, this, that, and the other thing. But even the difference in flavors will never taste enough for me to care. You know what I mean? Like if I need to add proof or volume to a drink, you'll run into this like when you got to batch out cocktails. Your flavors don't grow exponentially. Like how much bitters and how much this you add doesn't grow. So you'll sometimes have to use a vodka in there to give the drink volume so it doesn't become watered down.
Sure.
Because the
That
one
makes
thing,
sense.
like if I get them batch out a cocktail, the last thing I'm trying to do is make it cheap.
I was just sorry the way my brain works. I was like, vodka's like watering a drink down, but with alcohol.
And that's exactly the point. So I've got the flavor. I'm making a 5-gallon bucket of Manhattans. Negronis probably a better example, but I've got a 5-gallon bucket of Negronis. Now Negronis on the cocktail.
Explain it to Negroni. I mean, that's
what I'm doing.
Okay.
As a cocktail, Negroni is 1 ounce gin, 1 ounce sweet vermouth, 1 ounce Campari, and when that grates, you can make that up to 3 drinks at once. Once you hit 4, the vermouth the Campari overpowers everything. So you've lost all those flavors because at some point in time, all your bitter components get stronger. So then your base spirit gets washed out. So when you're batching out a drink, you got to make it to where the drink is balanced. You can't. I mean, I do have a math in my head that allows me to just throw it all together.
Sure.
But if you would say, oh, I'm just going to make 3-liter batches, just 1 bottle of Campari, 1 bottle of vermouth, 1 bottle of, by the end of it, just tastes like really chewy Campari. Because the elements change.
Yeah. 2 cents from the peanut gallery up here. Tom is on, and he says that he's been to Inkwell before, and he says, yes, it's an amazing place. And Tom, wish you were here. I mean, the chair's here.
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah, Tom could have been here.
I was told to expect all this fun talk and banter.
Fun Tom. Where are you at, Tom?
He's online.
Responsible
That's where he is.
parenting.
Exactly. Yes, responsible parenting.
Yep.
Parenting first.
Yes,
And that does matter.
and we won't go any further than that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, did he just say hey, or what was there a question in there?
He said, I'm really enjoying the show. Very insightful. Great job, guys. I recently enjoyed a few cocktails at Inkwell. Amazing. Thanks, Britt. I took him to Inkwell and showed him, and he's like,
It's a good place.
yeah, he's like, this is like one of the best old fashions he's ever had.
Not to
And I was like, well, hang on. He hasn't had yours yet.
Yeah, I actually took our friend Josh, who you met, and when we were there, I was like, Josh, this is like the old fashioned, and that's one of the guys that I tell the story of the old fashioned. So I ordered Josh Alzuri's version of an old fashioned. I was like, you have to try this because this is like, amazing.
Simple.
He's a Manhattan
balance.
guy. He loves an old fashioned, but he is a martini or a Manhattan guy. But
Where's he getting his Manhattans from that he likes them?
Scissors and Scotch, where we get our haircut.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. I was just like, I'm getting scared. Like, where's he going?
No.
No, I have to admit, though, my preferred style of Manhattan is, so years ago, I was the best. Just ask me. I could have told you. So I actually wrote my own cocktail book. I never published it or did anything with it. Because it's like, I've been doing this forever. Nobody.
I know how.
Just
I
like-
know best.
But I couldn't find any other.
You'd have to do an encyclopedic set.
I
for
couldn't
what you know.
find. I found lots of great bartenders. Right? Like they know how to take care of a bar and they knew basic recipes. But I never could find anyone
They
who
can pour a quick drink.
who could actually like, I don't know, guide me or help me. So I was like, I assumed everything I knew. I'm the guy who did it. Like I'm the guy. So I type all this up and I was like, you know what? I should probably see if there's other books out there.
And there is.
And then I found the Savoy cocktail book, which every one of my favorite drinks
Was in that book.
in that damn book. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, and all I can think is like, where has this book been
That or I wasted my time
all
writing a
this
book.
time?
I'll just throw my book.
Well, because there's a cocktail, and one of my favorite cocktails for a Manhattan is I like doing, I called it Imperfectly Perfect. So where I take 3/4 of an ounce of sweet vermouth, 3/4 of an ounce of dry vermouth, 1.5 ounces of rye. I do go a little heavier on the bitters because I love what bitters does to a cocktail. Hit it with a lemon peel, and it's just gorgeous. It's so well balanced.
Speaking of making
well,
a cocktail,
you know,
I was just going to say that because Barb, she was replying to.
thank you, Barb, for asking lots of questions. That's what
Yeah,
this show
yeah.
is all about, making yourself smarter.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
really,
That's what
you know,
she said. She's here to learn.
Yeah.
So my next thing would be for those that don't want to go to a bar and order a glass of vermouth.
yeah.
How would we go to? What would you
Could
suggest?
you order a shot of
And
vermouth?
should
I mean,
we-
I would assume you
Okay,
could.
so this is not me saying that all the freeloaders in the world can just come in a spirit world and give you free drinks, but we really do pride ourselves on being an educational bar.
Yeah.
That is what we're there for. We're not trying to be, hey, we're out here all night.
A sip or sample,
I am
get away
happy
with. Yeah.
to pour you a taste of something because
Yeah.
the reason why I know as much as I do is, again, because of how much access I have that almost nobody does.
But after the 7th taster, you're like, come on, buy a drink.
You know, it might hit that point. If you come saying, well, I'm just going to start trying there, and I'll just.
Oh, so you
Right,
want a
let's try
flight?
them all.
We're
Yeah.
going to do a flight then. I'll charge you for a flight.
Exactly.
But one of the-
$19.
So if somebody comes and asks me about vermouth or wine, one of the first things I do is I do take them straight to the bar, and it's not because I'm trying to give away booze or anything like that. But when you start talking about those kind of flavors, they're all good quality, but that doesn't mean they're for you.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my
Yeah,
favorite things,
everyone has a different palate.
and they're never wrong.
Right.
They like what they like, so I'll give them.
Plus, depending on which bar they go to, the vermouth may
You
be.
got anything that
Correct.
tastes like Kool-Aid? Yeah, we've got that.
But
So should we do what? Should we do
Yes.
a light cocktail, like an entry level? How you would do a simple entry into vermouth?
Feel free to push that microphone away and
Just trying to think
do what you need to do.
What to do?
Yeah.
Well, you've been talking about lemon peel and orange peel and all that.
Oh,
Should
yeah.
we do something like that? And we have the sugar cubes.
We're
which
going to
can
do
add-
my version of a Manhattan. Just what I called imperfectly perfect because I just really like the balance, the texture. Yeah, we're going to do it that way. I'm going to get this damn thing out of my way.
Sure. Yeah. While you're doing that, again, we asked earlier on if you are watching and you have any questions. Feel free to go ahead and ask any questions about the alcohol. I appreciate the questions that we've had so far, and if you have suggestions on things, that would be welcome too. But appreciate all you guys watching. Appreciate the questions again. So,
And
keep
we're
it
just going to
coming.
kind of focus in on what Alzuri's here doing, and kind of a semi-bar set up for him over here.
Yep.
So
And
As I realized I talked about forensic measurements, I should
probably measure it out.
Yep.
Fair
I
enough.
don't need to, but it's
Yeah. For the show.
Really good show.
Yep. So a Manhattan, if you don't know what a Manhattan is, it's very similar to an old fashioned, but without all the things and stuff in there. So a whiskey based drink. Bringing it in there.
I have to correct your version of the old fashioned, but we'll
Right.
talk about that in a moment.
Okay. Well, yes. So yes, yours is the exception though. Alzuri. So I guess this is a good time to tell a story then.
Okay. We're going to hold this kind of here.
Yeah.
The most important thing about old fashions is that the inclusion of sugar and orange and cherry, soda water and whiskey, that is a byproduct of the 50s level of old fashioned. That is the one I learned to make to begin with. But then again, I studied and found the Savoy cocktail book and all these older books. That is not at all how they made their damn Manhattan or old fashions. There is a science to a cocktail. It's all about balancing spirit, bitters, and sweetener. So it's all about that balance. My old fashioned will use a liqueur instead of a sweetener, but that's what it is.
That's why I like yours. Yours is so unique.
Clean.
Yeah. So those of you that are familiar with ordering an old fashioned and getting a mashed up maraschino cherry and a sugar cube.
If you like
and-
it, there's nothing wrong with liking it. By
Yeah,
the way.
yeah,
I do want to
that's
make that clear.
yeah,
You want a sweet one.
Yeah, you want a fruit cocktail in your drink. There you go. But one of the most amazing old fashions I had was at Spirit World, and this is one of the first times that I met you. I had the pleasure of having one of his versions of the old fashions, and it was straight liquid.
Yeah,
There was
this
no
little
things and
stir
stuff
stick.
in there,
Mine's
and it
over
was
there.
fantastic. He could
Got
put
one under the oranges there. That works.
I've done craft volume bar. I don't have time for the spoon, so I'm just gonna
Yeah,
spin
no
the
time for
damn
that.
thing.
Yeah, we're probably going to need... Is that going to work out?
Yep.
Oh, David wants to do scotch next. I am down.
Yes.
I am
Tis
down.
the season.
I am down for that.
Chase port barrels, sherry casks, peated.
Oh, and this almost has like an apple juice kind of,
Look to it.
yeah, look to it.
Oh, hold on.
And this
Make
is
sure that I didn't grab the wrong thing while
That's
I
right.
stopped what I was making to.
and this is
express my
your
opinion.
version of a Manhattan. You said.
Although I will admit, tonight is the first time I've used this
Oh, okay.
in it. But the goal is to make it a very dry cocktail.
That was pretty cool.
Dun, dun.
Yeah, it's almost like a. Oh, you don't have your little lemon spritzer with you?
Works just fine.
This is better.
Okay, all right.
This is for absinthe.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Citrus breaks down too soon,
Okay. Ooh, already smells wonderful.
and
over
that's
here.
what it's all about.
Mhm.
Aromatics first.
Yep.
Gentlemen?
And I'm gonna
Cheers.
sit my
Salute.
tail down.
Yeah.
Oh, you know. Yeah, that lemon,
Nice.
fresh.
Nice.
Oh yeah, this one's a little more. When we mixed the Michter's 50-50,
Victor?
this
Victor
has a little
Victors?
more. This has a little more Michter's punch to
Correct.
it. Like a little. I'm assuming there's a little heavier handed on the.
Well, actually,
rye.
the biggest thing is that the rich, warm body you get out of the Cocchi is cut back. This is cleaner and drier, so it actually allows the whiskey to shine. Much lighter flavor profile. As you remember, this is much more delicate.
Sure.
But adding
Delicate, that's the word. Delicate,
but
yeah.
adding that up against
When,
this.
when you say add that, our viewers really can't see anything.
sorry.
But no, tell them what you're doing, though. Tell them how you made this.
So I did 1.5 ounces of Michter's rye, 3/4 of an ounce of Cocchi Torino, 3/4 ounce of Trincheri dry vermouth. The reason being is because this is a powerhouse flavor. So this up against certain whiskeys, this will overpower. Now up against this whiskeys, they're going to balance out really nice.
Because
But-
rye whiskeys are very good for making.
Correct.
Cocktails.
Because of their stronger notes, that's fantastic. But I don't want this to be the dominant flavor. But I don't want to just thin it out. And if I add more of this, now I'm still out of balance. But by adding this, it allows the flavor of the rye to stand stronger without making it a necessarily stronger drink.
I got it. I follow that line.
And I dig it. It's really good.
When people make whiskey cocktails that you lose the whiskey, I get confused.
It's like you said, it's all about balance. You don't want any one flavor to shine.
But I still want to taste the whiskey.
Correct.
even when you
I
have the
still
vermouth in
want it to be a whiskey cocktail.
it. Yeah.
And to me, this showcases whiskey. But these two vermouths keep it a very dry finish, like on the tongue. So if we had good cherries, but I didn't bring them, sorry guys.
It's all right.
So we would
this,
have good
this
cherries.
definitely
It would take it to that next level.
this definitely mellows out the whiskey.
Mhm.
Like
It's there. Like the
I
whiskey's
can
there.
taste it. Yeah, the back of your mouth, on the back of your tongue, you can taste the whiskey flavor for sure. But it doesn't hit you. You know, it's not like
You don't get
It's
that.
not a punch.
Yeah, you don't get that. Oh, it's rolling down my.
So
I
burny.
can feel it burning down my throat.
It's the warmth you feel when you swallow it. It's more like when you're drinking warm tea. You know, you feel there's alcohol there, and you can feel it, but it's not sharp.
You put alcohol in your warm tea.
Well,
Yeah, hot toddy. A little hot toddy.
yeah.
Who
But that's when we get to Czechoslovakian liqueur. It's called Bekarovka. It'll change your what you want to drink next to a campfire with a little kettle of hot water.
Ooh.
Bakarovka with the baklava and then.
Oh, yeah.
It's very nice.
It's very nice.
Oh, all right. So, hey, John, thanks for joining us. John's a good guy.
I don't get to know
Tom
that.
says sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
Tom.
Sorry.
No apologies
Tom,
necessary.
Next time, man.
Yeah. We're always down for next time.
When we do scotch.
Ooh,
Yes.
That was David. David wants to do the scotch too.
Oh.
Who's David?
You know David.
I know David.
Yeah.
I know David. I know like 7 David.
Yeah.
Do you guys know carry over at proof?
Yeah. I don't care.
Damn woman.
She knows a lot about whiskey.
I always have to just say, if it comes down to scotch, no. She knows a lot about a lot, but when it comes to scotch, I always tip my hat to her.
She the story that I have about her, I actually learned about her before I actually met her at Proof. I went to the hidden Japanese whiskey bar in Benson.
Gotcha.
In the
You've yet to take me there.
It is amazing. And the bartender there was talking about this gal, Carrie, and he had a
Andrew?
lot of great things. Yes, Andrew. Had a lot of great things to say about her and said that she is not long for Omaha because she knows way too much about whiskey.
Oh, she's working at a great place too.
She is. She really is.
The part
If you're
that
gonna-
kills me is, so like, she's actually my highest competitor, I guess. But the
Sure.
weird thing is, I met her at what they called it Whiskey Fest some years ago, and it's the end of the night, and I'm like, and she's sitting there hanging us. We're hanging out with us, and we're with a bunch of distillers, and I'm like, politely, who are you? Like,
Who are you?
like, because she's having like a real conversation. I'm like, you don't work for any of these people. You know what you're talking. Like, who do
Who
you
are
work
you?
for?
Who does number 2 work for?
You are amazing.
I
I
was
need
like,
to know you.
I was like, I know. I was pretty sure I knew everybody worth the damn in our market. And she was like, oh, well, I don't do this. I'm like,
What?
oh.
She was like, I really like whiskey.
And then look where she ended up.
Proof.
Yep.
Damn it.
Yep. She's very, 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 very smart. There was a gal, Erica, that used to work at Scissors and Scotch where I get my haircut, and they had her go out to Denver and open the one out there, and we took a guy's road trip out there, and she got us into a speakeasy, and like I just when she was here, like her bartender, she was a good bartender, when she took us to the speakeasy, I'm like, oh no, you know a lot
Yes.
about whiskey.
Well, it's Southern
It's
Scotch. I
amazing.
mean, it's.
Yeah.
I mean, she knows more than the customer.
As you should.
But that's actually the hardest part in Omaha. It's like you're constantly where your customers are. I mean, you're always smart of them, but like what I do at Spirit World, I'm always bringing that first level in.
Mm-hmm.
So especially like on the wine, it's like I want to have a more diverse wine selection. I want to play more in some of the more unique wines. But we're very good for getting people started. So it's a lot of here's where you should start, to get them started. So we don't get as exciting as we would like to do.
Sure.
I'm just taking a break and getting some water.
Yeah, no.
Those of you drinking along with us, now would be a good time to take a break for the water.
Water break.
Oh, real quick, in case anyone reads any of the classic liquor books, like Savoy Cocktail, they refer to French as dry vermouth is French vermouth, sweet vermouth is Italian vermouth. So like
all Italian.
In the classic books, your red sweet vermouths were Italian style. Your dry clear vermouths were French. Now everyone makes all of them.
Now, are there any red that we've had tonight? All of them seemed like an amber or lighter color. So,
but they're still by definition the sweet red vermouth.
Okay.
So Brian sent me a little clip from Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
And she orders the sweet vermouth, and so then he does the retake and orders the sweet vermouth, and he cheers to something, and
World
she
peace, man.
She cheers to world peace, and redoes that. The world peace. It's Groundhog's Day. What's the fascination between sweet vermouth and dry vermouth? Like what do you
palate? I mean, same with wine, sweet wine versus dry wine.
So to me, sweet vermouth is if I'm looking just to drink. I don't have dinner plans. I'll probably eat, but that's not it.
I'll eat. I'll survive as a human.
There's calories. I've
Gotcha.
had that speech. Like if I just know I'm drinking.
So if you're calorie conscious, you should not be drinking vermouth.
Oh, I don't know that. That's okay. There have been occasions where
I'm not, as you can tell.
There's just been more than one occasion.
Shirt
like
makes me look thin.
Could go eat, or go have a drink. I'll eat later.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where if I'm there, then the sweet vermouth is more of a palate satisfying flavor profile. The dry vermouth is definitely it makes me start to crave salty and like. You guys drink sherry yet?
I've had cherry before.
Sherry?
Yeah,
Okay.
sherry.
Not cherry.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. I did extend that a little more. But yes, I do like the sherry cask, Macallan Scotch also. But yes, I have had actual sherry.
And like
I have not.
If you have the Fino or the Amontillado, very salty, briny, almost like oily roasted almond, but it inspires snacking, and that's where I find.
That's why I'm snacking over here. It's peanuts.
I actually think the dry vermouth kind of makes you want to snack on something. It doesn't quite wrap up your palate.
Was it because it's dry?
And I think it's because it's dry and more
something.
floral. And this is, in the body alone, like this coats palate. It stays there. And
is there, so on the aromatic side of vermouth, are there certain aromatics that tend to stick with sweet versus dry?
So the Lillet has a lineup. They have the Lillet Blanc, Lillet Rosa, which just came out only hit our market this year, and we've had a lot of success with it. And then there's Lillet Rouge, and the Lillet Rouge has been out for plenty long time. The best way to describe that is like the highest quality pre-bottled sangria.
Yeah.
A lot of red wine notes, but lighter texture. I wouldn't say it goes so much sweet, but those very easy to drink red wine notes. So if you drink the Lillet Rouge over rocks with an orange peel, it's like, wow, what a
Great sangria.
What a great, lovely sangria.
Do they use vermouth in sangria?
I do not.
But like traditionally,
No, because you're going to use you're going to make your sangria with leftover wine
table
and
wine,
fortify
basically.
it with brandy,
Okay. Yeah.
powdered sugar, fruit. But I make up my sangria recipe different every damn time. Like, what am I in the mood for today? Because like I never really get into making mulled wines, just a little too dry and intense. So, but I will take over the next month, the sangria we make at Spirit World will become more fall orientated. So I will start having a little more cinnamon baked apple flavors instead of
Blood oranges. Things of that nature in there.
some with a little more warm flavor profile.
Sure. Speaking of that, I'm thinking that we need to make a cocktail with this gin.
We do.
We have not done that yet.
And we're going to
we
make
did- we did.
the
We-
Martinez.
we did
Well, we,
No, no,
we did
wait.
the 50-50.
And that was actually nothing more than I knew this would work with that. That was not a cocktail. That was just here are two flavors that work beautifully together. But the cocktail that I will make with the Ransom Old Town Vermouth, not Vermouth. Sorry, Ransom makes an incredible vermouth. Their sweet vermouth is a little too cinnamon-y for me when I'm using it with gin, but gorgeous with whiskey or rum.
Great fall gin.
Yeah. But their dry vermouth is so crisp and sharp and elegant. I just drink the hell out of that. But anyways, this is the Ransom Old Tom Gin. We're going to make a Martinez, which predates the Martini. And it will be 2 parts sweet vermouth, 1 part Old Tom Gin. And we will use bitters this time. But the one thing is that I did not bring maraschino liqueur, which you use a bar spoon in.
You were talking about that before, and I was very confused when he said maraschino. I thought of cherries, and I'm like, is it a cherry juice?
But it is a cherry liqueur.
But it's a cherry liqueur. Gotcha.
And dominantly the one that's most used in classes. If you see a classic cocktail called for maraschino liqueur, my experience is the one you use is Luxardo. It's got a very dry cherry profile, not sweet at all. If I'm doing a big party and I need to be a little more forgiving, if I overpour on the Luxardo or the maraschino, I will use something like Last because it's got a little bit of sweet and won't overpower.
We've got some of the Mio black cherry. No, don't.
We're not going to do that.
Don't do that.
Yep.
So I'm going to stand up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're good.
You got to do what you got to do.
That was that last one was delicious. Is there a name specifically for that one, or you said it was your version of a Manhattan? But is there a technical name?
According to Savoy cocktail, it's a dry Manhattan.
Okay.
Blah.
Blah. Blah.
To me, it's
Easier to say just
perfect.
Alzuri's version of
Yeah.
Manhattan.
Imperfectly perfect. You got it. At one point in time, I came up with fun names. Then I was like,
I just cranked your microphone,
Okay.
so you should be a little bit hotter.
yeah, I just got tired of trying to make up cocktail names. Like, oh, this is just like. Once you learn the science of cocktails, the hardest part is it's all been done. You learn
Sure.
the balance. It is what it is. You take a certain amount of sweetener, certain amount of bitter, certain amount of everything, and every old fashioned. Well, let's talk about the Sazerac. Everyone here's had a Sazerac, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we've all had
So
it.
Absinthe
here you
and
have,
whiskey.
you have rye whiskey originally using cognac, but because fallout with France and we make whiskey here, it became a whiskey cocktail. But here you have whiskey, sweetener, Peychaud's bitters, stirred, poured in an absinthe with glass, hit with a lemon peel.
Sure.
So what do we have there? We have spirit, we have sweetener, we have bitters, expression of fruit. Okay? So the south side is a gin version of mojito before mojitos were a thing. Gin, sweetener, mint, shaken, served up. So your mint's acting as your bitter.
Sure.
The martini.
Speaking of that, I've got some fresh mint if we need it. Me. If you want it.
We'll seal that, I guess.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, so a Manhattan, whiskey, sweet vermouth, bitters. So there's a spirit, a sweet, and a bitters, and everything.
Yeah.
And you're just balancing that out. So to me, all cocktails are now derivative, because that's all I see is balancing. Doesn't matter what the spirit is, doesn't matter what my sweetener is. I'm using something to create sweet, using something to balance it with bitter, I'm going to express a piece of fruit because I want the aromatics to just kick off your palate, and I may change my base spirit. So like this, in my version of Manhattan or Old Fashioned would be fantastic. But, like I said, it just takes some of the fun out of it.
And yeah, when I think old fashioned, I think of whiskey. I don't think of gin at all.
But a gin old fashioned would be really damn good.
Are there so the type of bitters, is it a specific type or just the?
Ideally, for this cocktail, I prefer Regan's orange bitters, but we have Angostura, which is great in a rum and tonic. When you go to a dive bar and you take a look behind the bar, I'll take a rum and tonic with some bitters. And they're like, oh, okay, never had that.
Who are you? Why do you know this?
Yeah.
Are you a bartender somewhere?
When I'm in tequila mood, I do tequila and tonics, just a lime. Because what I really like about that is the tonic allows me to drink longer, but the tequila takes over the whole flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't taste tonic, I taste tequila. Sparkling tequila is what it tastes like.
Sure.
And it's fantastic.
Huh. If you're a tequila fan.
If you're a tequila fan.
Really, you did change my mind on tequilas, bringing that
Well,
aged tequila.
It helps when you're not shooting it.
True. Which traditionally, that's what you do.
Has everyone got their glass clean?
Clean-ish.
Empty?
Yep. Empty is.
The process in which we've been making these, like, you're not contaminating. Outside of that port, you're better off if we.
Well, yeah, the port had like
Yeah.
residue and sediment and all that.
Oh, by the way, the importance of garnishes and drinks, which I don't really do, is the fact that otherwise, once you balance out all your drinks, there's really not a lot of color variation. In case you didn't.
No, this is about the same color as the last one.
Correct. Oh, we're not done.
Oh yeah. A little orange zest.
Oh man.
I'm a fan of the citrus zest.
A lot of people don't know this, but you can actually light that on fire.
Just you can't.
There you go, Pyros.
Just saying, you can light orange zest on fire.
Thank you, sir.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Now I'm gonna set
Salute.
tail down again.
Dude. Yeah. A little more that citrus hit right up front, but then you got the gin in there.
So the purpose of that citrus aroma is it will activate the palate. It'll start the mouth already salivating, so that when you go to drink, it picks that up.
You know, I will say that even if you are
That is so nice.
if you are not a gin fan, this is fantastic. This would be a great way to introduce you
And
to gin.
I'm halfway there with the gin I bought and the vermouth that I've got and the bitters. What was the one other thing you added to this?
I didn't add it, but the technically what it's missing is a maraschino liqueur.
So you did the gin, you did my vermouth,
Your gin, your vermouth, a
dash of bitters,
delicate dash because Angostura will overpower this drink.
and then the orange.
I
zest
do
on
prefer an
top.
orange bitters in this drink,
Yeah.
but
I just can't believe I had all this in my basement, except for the gin that I bought today, but still. It's
Yeah.
like, man.
Where did you get the vermouth?
Alzuri actually had me buy it for a show, and then he brought his own vermouth stuff, and I guess
we made something else.
we did. I think it was the mudslide show. It was just sitting over there for something. Or maybe it was even before
No,
that.
you bought it for something else that I was not doing.
Yes, correct.
And then, I don't
Or you were going to come, and then you couldn't make it or something. I don't know. Something like
But
that.
yeah, I love that thing. So anytime it's available to talk about, and if I go to a bar and I see that, I'll take that on the rocks.
Wait, how old's that bottle?
Yeah. Is there
Well-
dust on it? And have you opened it recently?
Well, it had the unbroken seal.
Oh,
so I'm
okay.
like, hold on.
You'll be all right with that.
One of the annoying things I do is I also take the seals completely off. I don't want the foil there at all because I want to know
That
that
it's open.
bottle is opened.
Yep.
So,
This is fantastic. I really like this.
predates a martini.
Well, I don't know how much further we can go about vermouth. I think we've covered the gamut about it.
All you need to know is if you haven't been drinking it, you're missing out, and you really should.
I agree. You
completely.
have changed my mind about vermouth. I am not going to make that face anymore when someone says vermouth. I'll go, Did you store it properly?
I was watching a couple of videos on Vermouth on YouTube, and most of them were over in Europe, and they would go into these bars and just order like Vermouth with like an orange peel and a sugar cube, and that was it. And I'm like, nobody does that here. A glass of Vermouth? Are you kidding me?
Della Costa had it.
These
was
are
in
really
love with
good.
that place.
These are fantastic.
There's another Spanish one called producer is Iris, and they make a Spanish Blanco that is so refreshing. It has like this almost banana bread kind of side palate, but I'll drink it on the rocks with a lemon peel, and before I know it, somebody had emptied my bottle, and I'm in a much better mood than when I started.
My 2 cents on this would be, if you are thinking of breaking into the Vermouth category, go to a place that actually has a decent bar there, and have one
They
after
have to have a cocktail program.
Right, but
Not
I would
just drinks. We make cocktails.
And the people that you're talking to need to know and be well versed on it as well.
Yes, but I would also take that a step further and say I would introduce you by having one before or after dinner.
Correct.
And that way, if you're not a huge fan, well, you have dinner and you can have another drink.
And if you're here in Omaha, there's this place called Spirit World off of 67th and
I've
Center.
been there.
You've been there. I think you were.
like every day, right?
You're
there
lot
a
more
lot.
often than originally agreed upon.
Right.
Cool.
Fair enough.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about Vermouth, or covered the gamut? We got it?
No, I actually think this.
we did a
America
great
makes
job.
it.
Knocked it out.
Lots of countries produce it.
Yeah, the number one.
Wine can
It's
turn to
Italy and France are the two big producers.
Correct. I will be honest. I like the aromatized wine from France. Their vermouth, I don't really care for. So,
Well,
but just as a personal preference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people may love it.
You have different taste buds than me.
Correct.
Way more refined.
But I just want to say that because everyone said, "Oh, I heard Noli Prescott." Well, it is incredibly well made, but just not for me.
Yeah.
Great product. Happy to sell it.
For millions of other people, it's fine.
If it triggers that magical spot for you, please drink it. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Alzuri, for bringing
Yes.
not only your knowledge but also the Vermouth
And a newfound interested
appreciation
Vermouth for me.
And I hope you gain some knowledge. Those of you that have been watching, David, if you gain some knowledge on Vermouth, I certainly did. And Barb, thank you for all your comments.
That was great, Barb, for keeping all the questions alive.
Yeah, I will look differently on Vermouth, and I will probably have to order more in the future. I see more Vermouth in my future.
Yes.
For sure.
Well, now that I have a bottle of ginseng around the house.
Well, why not?
Well, you're going to put this in your refrigerator after I leave.
Yes.
and
I'm going to put both in the refrigerator.
You'll have to finish this within 2 months if you want it to be.
Write the date on there.
I
great.
can have that gone by tomorrow.
Oh, I know the devil. I actually don't keep a lot of vermouth at home because I'll make 1 or 2 drinks and then I'll just.
Yeah.
I will slide into it like it's a bottle of wine.
Perfect.
Nice. Well, again, thank you, Alzuri, for joining us.
You're always welcome on the show.
Yes, yeah. And thank all of you for watching. My name's Brian.
I'm Britt.
And Alzuri.